Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to the monthly STARS meeting. We got some quick stuff here today. There they go. So just let me know.
Yeah, I can't even hear it, Nick.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll just keep talking through it then, as rude as that is. All right. So agendas, we're trying to stay pretty consistent throughout the year. So nothing huge or new to throw at you today. We'll go ahead and just do our brief introductions on our team. I think our whole team is here. I see Dr. Laffey's on. Advancing. There we go. Obviously, I'm here. Everybody, I'm Nick, and then Trish is here, and I believe Morel is down here somewhere as well. We will, with the Zoom fatigue of the day, we'll avoid trying to have everybody introduce themselves through the process, but that's a good-looking group of people who are logged in. So. All right, so our February transports had some good calls that came through the system this past month. We are going to try and keep tracking them monthly for you. Any of these that you wanted to highlight at all, Trish?
Not that I have, some comments for the kudos page, but I don't think any of these.
Okay, cool.
They're pretty straightforward.
I was going to say, if nothing else, I was happy to see an appropriate Versed dose. That's something that we're working on, but that was well done by that crew. So just we're kind of working on the dosing, trying to get that a little more dialed in. And then we did have one non-transport that we know of for February. Forever and always, the non-transports are the hardest for us to track down at either of the children's hospitals because we don't know if you're running the kids that way or not unless it comes over the 911 page to us. So please reach out and let us know if you guys get a refusal on one of the STARS patients. As simple as it might seem in your world, that's still a big deal to us. So please, just reach out to us with that information.
Yeah, and just to add on that, to piggyback on that, some of you who follow some of the state happenings, regulations, bills, and whatnot, it looks like we're going to be able to start billing for EMS is going to be able to start billing for Medicare Treat No Transports, which hasn't trickled down to us. The majority of our patients are Medicaid covered by just the nature of their complexities in general. But to me, it looks like eventually that could trickle down to us, and it'd be great for you guys to get some reimbursement for these eventually. And we would definitely be able to provide information and to support that. But we need to know they're going on. Like I said, like Nick just mentioned, if we don't get a page on them, we're usually catching them through, just word of mouth or, someone happens to call us and let us know. So we'd love to hear about those if you're running them and we're not.
Okay, I can pass on a note about the Treat No Transports and refusals for STARS to make sure you guys are directly updated since you guys aren't linked in with that and get those reports. That'd be awesome. Helpful on all sorts of levels.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And it said Kim's. Who was speaking up?
Oh, sorry. My name's Crystal.
Hi, Crystal.
Oh, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for joining. Yeah, I do get, so typically we catch yours through Central County or your dispatch, but if heck, send them to me, please. Yes, absolutely. Because just in case we're missing some, that's really helpful.
Yeah, we were working on these yesterday, so I'll make sure I pass this through as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And it looked like you had your kudos screen, correct?
Yeah. And again, I say it every time. So I hope you're not growing tired of me always repeating myself, but especially for those of you who are new to the meeting, if I don't ever want to miss anyone who's out and about doing great things. So please definitely shoot me a note if you guys have, if you yourself have done something great, out in the community with your kids or, gone above and beyond, not even that, just right now, the way things are, even just communicating with them in general. let us know, because we'd love to highlight what all of these agencies are doing. Cole County, I don't know if they were able to join us today. They're relatively new to STARS. We just enrolled their first STAR last year, mid-pandemic, so they really didn't get to do much personal, okay, not much, not any personal, really one-on-one interaction with him or mom. We did video training. This was a little guy who spent the first year of his life in the NICU at MU Women's and Children's. But they did do some of the recorded video trainings that we sent, and they ran a refusal on him day prior to yesterday. So mom called to talk to me about it, and she really was, it's nice to hear how appreciative the parents are of just having that support, especially in those rural communities when they're terrified. She was out there and alone, of course, and it had to do with, I don't know if I have any RTs on the line that could probably explain better what happened, but they'd switched out vent tubings and somehow eliminated his exhalation ability. So he rapidly built up CO2 and pretty much turned purple and unresponsive on her really fast. This is a child who is his dysfunction is purely autonomic, so he never has to be bagged. Like he has his vent for different reasons from the majority of our kids. So honestly, in the 2 years of his life, mom has never really had to bag him before. And so EMS stayed quite a while after the call, apparently, her mom, and walked her through the steps to the BVM, to hooking up the oxygen, because he doesn't on room air typically through his vent. So she just felt so much comfort and so much more, a different just layer of security in having them so close by. And he corrected pretty quickly. They were able to also provide monitoring for the time that they were there and make sure that he was safe. And again, that's another, golly, he would have been a double transfer. There's no way they would have been able to take him all the way in. It just would have been, 911 transfer plus interfacility transfer plus potential unnecessary admit, and then get all the way home. That's a lot to do with event kids. So every time that happens, we're just really impressed with it. And I wanted to give kudos to Cole County for spending the time with mom and helping her out. Stoddard County transported one of our very, very sick kids on the very worst day that we had in the snowstorm. And I don't know if there's anyone from Stoddard County on the line, but when I looked at the times, I believe I looked at almost a 5-hour trip from there to us. And just the fact that they are, willing to do that. I don't know if they definitely had a choice, but the fact that we have a resource to bring our kids, Stoddard County does a lot of work in their community. They do a lot of PR work in the schools and whatnot. So they know this child, they know his family, and the fact that we had a service that knew him personally. It wasn't just, a random private service who didn't know him. It was someone who knew this child that was able to take him from point A to point B in really, precarious road conditions, and was able to do it safely. That was pretty much their entire shift, was just getting this kid to us. So I appreciate that and wanted to extend our thanks. Montgomery County has some pretty cool training that they've set up through both a combination of STARS and EMSC. I believe, Nick, are you going up there?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think we are, but Gina's going to be there from STARS. Sorry, so I'm like, I think one of us. Okay, maybe not, but it's a cool training. We've seen the outline of everything they're doing, and they're basically going to do a full day of covering all of their STARS kids with some hands-on training and sim, and I think that's awesome. They do a pretty good job. They do a fantastic job keeping up with their kids there. Eureka, I just wanted to give a shout out to Chris because he's so wonderful, and he sent out an email to us and offered for any of our STARS parents, not even in just the Eureka area, but the surrounding areas, to be able to come in and get vaccines if they had extras at the end of their shifts. We wanted to make sure that that was an offering that was given to the parents of our STARS children specifically. And I wanted to thank him for that. I know that it's been really difficult over the last year. I just sent an email to Dr. Laffey and Dr. Kurt Sobush, who's the pulmonologist. He's an attending who started up our complex care clinic, who's a big STARS advocate and helps us out quite a bit. He helped draft the letter that we put out a year ago today or this week regarding interaction between STARS patients and the transport of our STARS patients during COVID. And we were pretty strict at that time with having any unnecessary non-emergent contact with them at all, which we realize has taken a lot out of our program. We don't have an answer for that yet. And that was kind of unfair to me to email Dr. Laffey and Dr. Sobush last night and then ask for an answer today. But we will be getting back to you. I think that I'm hoping that soon, if done safely, we can start doing some more home visits like we used to, bringing the kids in maybe to open bays. I can't say for sure because I feel that I do need to follow the guidelines of Dr. Sobush because he's been very involved in school districts and our community as a whole as far as, you know, distancing and being safe with these kids goes. But within the next month, I'd like to be able to send out an update on what we have been told is safe practice so we can start doing some more training with these kids. The impact is so much greater when we can actually involve them. So Dr. Laffey, I don't know if you wanted to make comment on it or you want to wait for both you and Dr. Sobush to comment together.
No, I'm curious to know what Kurt thinks. The other thing I was just looking at your email. The other thing to take into account is might be vaccination status of the people going to the house too.
Yeah.
There's no one wants to commit to the fact or the possibility that once you're immunized, your chance of transmitting is way, way lower. It seems to be that way. Certainly all the evidence is pointing that way. I don't think anyone wants to, just say, hey, we're all free, don't worry about it. But I think if you're vaccinated and it still would do all the rest of the precautions with masking and all that would perhaps be another hoop to jump through there as far as being more comfortable with them going out to the scene.
Yeah. So we'll see. I hope we can. I know we've had I Phelps County went out and visited a kid, a brand new enrollment with a brand new coordinator. And I think that there are cases when I looked at it in hindsight that it's possible that benefit outweighs risk if it's done appropriately. But again, I don't feel comfortable speaking on that until Dr. Sobush speaks up, since this is truly his lane. So I hope so. I hope we can get back to it soon. I miss them. And I agree. I think there are going to be a lot of factors that are going to play in for each situation. It's not going to be a one size fits all once we are able to make a statement about that, I'm sure. So you can move on, Nick. I'm wordy as always. Sorry.
So for the room for improvement section, they didn't have a lot. We did have a seizure call run for one of our newer kiddos in the program. It was actually a SLIT patient, but the crew called Cardinal Glennon. So just a reminder for you and your crews that, the preferred hospital, by all means, that's that kid's hospital that they follow up with, and that should be the one that your crews reach out to. Obviously, any ED, if they answer a call about a kid in distress, they're going to maybe be able to provide you some brief guidance, but it would really be better. You should be transporting hopefully to that preferred facility, and just to start talking to their charge nurse and or their medical direction would be the more appropriate. Also tends to cause a little bit of confusion sometimes on the hospital side. So not to say that we can't work through that, but just a reminder that we have kids from multiple hospitals in this program, and not to always just default to calling Glennon for assistance. I did want to toss in briefly on that note. It's not formalized yet, but something that we're working on is with our access center. Something I think we've talked about a few times before, but it is in progress to, especially for our more rural stars, have the ability possibly for crews to call the access center for guidance. As we've discussed previously, when you call an ED charge nurse, what does she actually want to know? You know, they actually just want to know like which room to put you in and how many people to have standing in that room. And if we start throwing in like all kinds of we're on scene and we see this questions, that can sometimes be tough for them in their workflow. A better place to enter with those calls really might be the access center. So we're kind of building out some algorithms for that on our side. So that will be clearly delineated in the form. If you encounter those, it'll say like, hey, you can call the access center for this kid. And that will kind of more to come on that, but always trying to improve that medical guidance to the crews in the field. All right. So the numbers for the month, we did have, we continue to just kind of a steady little growth there with 679 current active stars. As far as your users out there in the field and logins, a slight drop in February. I always like to blame it on the shorter days. So still staying same ballpark though, as we, you know, get circa 500 people in every month looking around at the STARS application. Those are unique users logging in. Our dispatches for the month. So first of all, you know, thanks to our 911 centers, we appreciate it. It seems like that is going smoother over time, or at least I hope it appears so on our side. I hope it is from your side. So thank you guys for continuing to do that. I think we can see that Kim's is the bar, Morella's bar graph tells me that Kim's is winning for right now. So everybody else, feel free to take on the throne if you need to. But you can see a total of 30 dispatches there for February. So that's good stuff. All right. Our emergency activations. So this is, you know, people tapping the emergency activations, and we are trying to limit, you know, obviously if we have a singular event, we could have up to 10 people clicking emergency activation. So Morella's working on narrowing these down to finite events, but still hanging out about 40 emergency activations. It's just a way for us to kind of see if STARS calls are happening outside of the dispatch system for places where that is not active yet. All right, and then some application updates. I know we talked about this last month, but it did drop in for sure. So there is a new dashboard feature as far as the ability to look up STARS from other areas. So if you get some downtime, if you guys wouldn't mind popping in and taking a look at that, just so you can have some familiarity before an emergency happens. Whenever you log in, you default to your home group. The only difference is now on the drop downs on the left side on the dashboard, you can actually see what your home group is. So that if you're like looking at a dashboard of 10 stars, say, and you can't find the kid that you're being dispatched to, well, they might belong to somebody else. So, oh, I am only affiliated with Eureka, or I'm only affiliated with Fenton. I need to add another district. Another cool way you can do it, you know, especially for my dispatch centers where you're looking at an entire county, is you can select all the service providers and then just pick your county down below. And that will just set up your dashboard. When you hit apply on that filter, will just show you your entire county. So whether for the dispatch agencies or the disaster management people, like you can look at within a specific county what stars live inside of that county. So kind of a cool way you can kind of slice the data or change around your view of what you're looking at the stars. And it will always update your bubble whenever you're logged into the application. It'll tell you how many plans you're looking at. Yep, go ahead.
Quick question. Can you pick more than one county to view?
Absolutely, yeah. So you could click through. So for instance, yeah, if you're covering the Devil's Triangle down there and you got Franklin County, Jefferson County, and St. Louis County all coming together, you could just grab all three at once. Pretty good. The other thing you can do is if you're looking for a kid, in all honesty, if it's an emergency and you want to find a kid in a hurry, what you can do is you can just hit select all on both service providers and patient counties and hit apply on the filter. And it will just show you admin style view every single kid in the system. So this is your new way to just, okay, I want to see every single star. And then in the search bar, you can start typing number, name, whatever you want to do, and it will filter down to find the kid. So we think it's a little bit faster. It makes a little bit more sense because before it was a little hidden why you were looking at the group of kids you were looking at. Now it's just completely out in the open. This is the group of kids that you're looking at in your area. I think also for some of my agencies who run a lot of mutual aid, it's a great way for you to be able to be like, okay, well, we have 3 stars in our district, but we help out our 5 neighboring agencies. Well, now you can go pull theirs for the purposes of training or doing planning for the emergencies. Okay, well, we can pull the group up and we can see now the 20 kids who are within our general region or geography. So, any questions about the dashboard? Of course, I have a new YouTube video up. I don't know if people like listening to my monotone drone on a YouTube though. So,
How do you get to that
so
Is
it is
under dashboard?
yeah. So it is actually just built into your dashboard now. Sorry, I probably have to refresh my stars. I haven't been on all
Do you
day.
know if you have to be on the computer as opposed to a telephone? I was trying to look on my phone and it didn't come up. So maybe,
Gotcha. No, it should work the same. So here, I'll even pull up mobile view for you. So so the dashboard just changed over here on the left side now. And there's the search bar, instead of being a separate screen that you go to, is just built into your main screen. So all other users should just have their status will just default to active. You won't be able to see the other plans. But then service providers. So for instance, if we wanted to add Hazelwood there, I would hit Hazelwood and then see, I need to get out. So St. Louis County. And so I've selected my parameters that I want. I just hit apply on the filters. Oh, sorry, I'm in as an admin, so it's gonna get. So that's a way you can see just the Hazelwood stars. So it's just a way you can really tightly select what group of people you're looking at. So in that instance, like I was talking about for my dispatcher, so I saw Mr. Herman on there. So for instance, if he just wanted to look at Jefferson County, he can look at all service providers affiliated with Jefferson County and hit apply. Oh, I gotta take, sorry. Admins pretend like they know what they're talking about all the time. There you go, apply. And so that's a way you could see all Jefferson County stars. All right. If you ever get, you can't remember what parameters you set or you're having trouble getting it to go, you can always just hit reset and that will take you back to whatever basic setup you have for logging in. It'll reload the screen and then you will just come back into your default settings.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Continue to have training opportunities. I seem to be getting out more and more in person. So if you guys would like to set something up for April or May, as long as we can do the distance thing and I still wear a mask, and hopefully at this point we're getting more and more of our groups immunized here. But I'd be happy to do that. I also have a set of Zoom trainings running, so we're willing to be flexible, whatever works for your agencies to get that in. So. And then I also wanted to point out, so St. Louis Children's has started a couple videos that they have up. I believe they have a seizure and a congenital heart defect video up so far, just looking at a couple of the major syndromes in both those categories. So I believe that's shared through Stars Provider. I hope they're also shared through their resources. I don't know if Sabina can testify to that. I don't see Gina on here.
We're currently in the process of trying to get it on the website so anybody can access it at any time, but it's still in the works, but it is happening at some point.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So just more and more training resources. Like I said, we just need to get all this good information out there into the world. And then just an opportunity to talk about a couple of things that come up during the week. And it's always fun to put Dr. Laffey on the spot. So I had kind of an interesting one last week, which, we've been preached to for years, don't give aspirin to little kids. And then I had somebody in a training point out and they're like, well, how come you guys give so much aspirin to all those heart kiddos? And I was like, it was one of those where like, I think I know the answer, but we should probably consult to make sure. And so, so I didn't know, the answer I kind of got from cardiology was just that our dosing, cardiac dosing is much lower. It's not at that high anti-inflammatory level. But even with that being said, it sounds like if they're worried that the kid has a viral infection, they will withhold aspirin for a few days, just to avoid the rare complication of Ray's syndrome. So I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add on to that at all, Doc Laffey?
No, it's funny. I've never thought of that until you brought that up. That's Rye syndrome's super rare. It's an interesting, when I was just beginning in training, it was still something that kind of existed, but it really, practically speaking, it's truly a 1 in a million kind of thing. A lot of that certainly probably has to do with aspirin therapy, although there's also some suspicion that there may be other factors that have, because it's gone down to like 0, which it's hard to believe. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, so there's some question as to whether that's all aspirin or whether there's some other stuff too. But yeah, the antiplatelet effects of the aspirin occur at much lower doses, maybe a fraction of the dose that you need for the anti-inflammatory effects. So that's probably the biggest thing that makes it low risk. But I think that what Michael from cardiology said, that makes sense. When you give a dose of aspirin, it actually inactivates the platelet clumping for every platelet in your body forever. It never wears off. So the 5 days isn't because the aspirin actually wears off. What that is your body building new platelets, and the ones that are inactivated are being destroyed. Once you get about 20% of your platelets functioning again, you start having more clotting. So that's where that 5 days comes from. Is at that point, you're starting to have enough new platelets that you're going to be starting to get at risk, maybe for having those clots again. So you can probably take several days off and still be okay. So it's not like something like like the effects last for 12 hours or 24 hours. That's not really the way it works. That's like you can take a couple of days off and still be okay.
I had one other one that came up this week that I didn't give you a chance to get a heads up on, so you can always defer if you need. So I thought it was kind of interesting that it seems like at least one of the paramedic schools I was in, they are focusing on fluid resuscitation for peds being 10 to 20 milligrams per kilogram. Like they actually are like giving the specific range, of which I only thought was interesting because at least for me, I don't know about everybody else on here. Like I was hounded in me like 20 cc's per kilogram till the end of time, unless they're a heart kid, and then you got to be different.
Right.
I don't know if that was like a hedge because they are worried about the heart kids. I guess my question was.
No, I suspect what that's from. So I don't know for sure. I'd have to see specifically what they're talking about, but there was a couple of there's articles that came out several years ago that looked at fluid resuscitation in what they called serious febrile illness, but not kids in shock, and that the kids who got fluid boluses did worse than the kids who didn't get fluid boluses. And it was a really good study. It was well done. The only kind of issue was that I have with it, and I don't know if that's what this is about, but I wonder if it might be about that, is it was done in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, that are, they talk about, if you're in a place with limited access to, tertiary care, you should be careful with fluid boluses. That's kind of that was one of the recommendations from the Heart Association. But what I always pointed out is when they're talking about limited access in this study, they were talking about it didn't exist. There was no PICU, there was no ventilators, you know what I mean? It's just the entire country doesn't have anything. So sometimes I think when people, in fact, I had this happen when I was teaching PALS, someone came up to me after the lecture and they're like, well, I live, I way down in southern Missouri, we don't have much access, should I be worried? I'm like, you're not nearly in the lack of access. That's not what this study was looking at. That was not the circumstance of the study. This study took place where there was no zero. It didn't exist at all. So no one in the United States practices in an environment where you have truly that kind of limited access to tertiary care. So it was an interesting study. It was very well done, but there's a lot of questions as to whether or not it translates into the United States. What most people are saying now, I think the way they're hedging and kind of the way the new PALS information is frequent reassessments. That's really what it's all about. Whether it's 10 or 20, the thing is, give a bolus, reassess, see how the kid's doing. And we have sometimes been guilty of just running in a bunch of fluids. And I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about us too in the hospital, but I'll just give another bolus. I'll give them, let's run that wide open. Next thing you know, you've really over resuscitated them or given them fluid that they really didn't need. So I don't know if that's where that came from, but I wonder if that might have been where it came from. So I think the take home point is just, reassess, give your fluid bolus, do another one, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Doc Leffick, and thanks for allowing me to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Also, so that was the majority of what we had for today. I'm 1 minute late today, so my apologies to everybody. Any feedback, questions, concerns, anything going on at your agencies with regard to your stars that needs to be addressed or we can help with? Cool. Awesome. Well, we'll hang on the line here if anybody wants to come up to us after class here, but thank you guys so much for your time today, and I hope everybody stays safe out there.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.